applications in biomedical engineering.
This call is now being recorded.
On behalf of Institute, on behalf of organizing committee, and personally, I welcome one of the eminent academician and researcher, Professor H.S. Mohan, for today's third session of the Faculty Development Program. Sir, welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
I also welcome all the participants for the third session of the today's FTP program. So I hope this session will be very useful for all of you. Now I request my colleague, Professor Pushpalata Madam, to introduce Professor H.S. Mohan, sir, for all the audience and the participants of this FTP. Madam, over to you.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce the most eminent personality and who we adore a lot, Dr. H.S. Mohana. He is working as a professor and head, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Navkis College of Engineering, Hassan. Sir has completed his BE from AIT Chikmagaluru, ME from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. He was awarded PhD for the topic real-time and road traffic analysis using differential techniques and its evaluation from VTU Belgaum. He has over 32 years of teaching experience. Sir has published more than 50 papers in national and international conferences and journals in India and abroad. His areas of interest include image processing, signal processing, computer vision based instrumentation, digital image processing, and pattern recognition. Sir has started his career as a lecturer at AIT Chikmagaluru from December 1987 to April 1993. Later, he has worked as a professor in Malnad College of Engineering, Hassan from 1994 to February 2020. Sir has worked as Dean and Controller of Examination of Autonomous Program from 2011 to 2013 and organized AICT IST STTP on instrumentation and measurement. He has attended more than 60 FTP and organized 14 FTP and workshops. He has also coordinated 2 days state level workshop on digital image processing and computer vision at MCE Hassan. He has several professional membership such as MST, IET, FIE, ISC, SIT, Singapore. He has worked in several universities positions such as BOE, BOS, member in VTU and Kuala universities. Sir has honored as session chairperson in IEEE International Conference on Computational Intelligence Communication System and Network, Indore. He honored as a session chairperson at JNNCE Shimoga in 2013. He has reviewed a textbook, Electronic Instrumentation by David Bell, Oxford Press for Indian reprint. Sir has honored as session chairperson in 3rd IEEE International Conference at GSSS Institute of Engineering and Technology for Women, Mysore in December 2018. He is an author for a book titled Pattern Recognition Techniques for Kannada Script Analysis, published by More Books Publication, Germany. Dr. H.S. Mohana successfully guided one candidate and he has awarded PhD in Jain University and also guiding 6 PhD students. So with all this, I once again welcome you, sir.
Thank you.
So we can present, sir. Present yourself.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir. Slides are visible, sir.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just for a minute, couple of minutes.
Okay,
Let
sir.
me start. Yeah. Hope
Yes.
visible.
Yes, sir. Slides are visible,
Slides
sir.
are- Good afternoon.
And your audio is, yes,
Audio is clear?
yes, sir. Audio is clear.
Yeah. Okay. Pandemic has made us to learn all these mode of communicating to distant places, and it has created a new normal of conducting FDP online.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes.
Fantastic. And I wish I take this opportunity to wish some of my friends who are taking part in this, Nanda Madam, Dr. Nanda, Dr. Vishnumurthy, my friend and my earlier colleague and student also doing PhD, Dr. Mallikarjun Holi, Pushpalata, so many, all UBDT, CE, E&I colleagues, earlier my friends there, to everyone my wishes, I take this opportunity to wish them all to begin, before I begin my topic of discussion on this afternoon. And in the outset, the beginning itself, I would like to thank all of you for providing me an opportunity to present some of my research findings, and as well as some of the research findings of my students before you. Yeah. First, before I move on with why I have chosen this particular topic for this afternoon, is the one which I would like to speak on for a couple of minutes, and then I'll I'll travel with my slides. Hope that's all right. Pushpalata?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
I have chosen biomedical image analysis based on optical flow using machine learning. Now, I believe that optical flow is one of the tools which can be explored in a big way for majority of the application, wherever there is a movement of either object or whatever. So whenever there's a video analysis, the first thing which come to my mind is optical flow. Optical flow is just a tool, and on that machine learning will sit. So optical flow will give the velocity diagram against pixels, and the interpretation of that is definitely can happen in a much better way, I believe, that with the machine learning. That's why I have chosen, because there are a wide number of applications which I can mention, but to be very specific to suit the occasion or to suit this FDP, I have chosen biomedical image analysis based on optical flow, and then using machine learning. Machine learning is to sit on the top of it. Basically, it's optical flow. It moves around optical flow, and then the machine learning part. I have taken some of the important papers which I have referred, and then I have collected some information. Definitely, it will be useful to the research candidates, or some of them who would like to pursue research in the future. That's what I have planned. The entire 1 hour, 10 minutes I have prepared for. Another 10 minutes for the question and answer. I would like to, in the beginning itself, I have a couple of questions. Pushpalata, you can note down the questions, and then you can pass on the question to me. I will, if I am able to answer, I will answer. That's a mode I would like to choose. Instead of somebody coming to the forefront and asking questions, instead of that, you can let them communicate questions to you. In turn, you can repeat me. So that if I'm able to answer, definitely I will do. Or if I need little time, they can contact me on my email ID. That's what I have planned. Okay.
Yes, sir. Santosh here, sir. Hello.
Yes.
Santosh here, sir. Santosh Kumar. So, in the last 2 days, we have done is that we have asked the participant to send the questions by chat.
Yeah,
Will
that's
be
better.
fine, sir.
That's a better mode. And in turn, you can note down few questions which I have to answer, and I'll answer those questions. You can in turn you can repeat the questions
Yes, sir.
through audio.
Definitely, sir. Definitely,
Huh?
sir. Yes, sir.
Audio
Yes, sir.
mode. Okay.
Yeah,
I think
thank you, sir.
all right. I'm comfortable with that. Okay.
Fine, sir. Fine,
Okay.
sir.
Let's move on. For this afternoon, I have these contents. Let us try to understand the motion analysis first. I try to discuss that as a first part of my discussion. Goes around that. And introduction to optical flow. As I said, this is an important tool which I am very optimistic about, and I would like to take it forward. And that's why I would like to give much of the time to optical flow. Then application of detect and tracking people in complex scene using optical flow. Few applications I have taken, and wherein stages of implementation of optical flow and how that will end up in certain objectives. That is really planned in the third session. And in the third part of it, in the last part of my discussion, I focus on different papers wherein biomedical analysis, biomedical image analysis have been done, and where machine learning has played a role. Such papers I have taken, and I would really like to present that part in the last part of my discussion, part 4. So this is my plan for this afternoon. Let us start with this motion analysis. Why this is important? In most of the video analysis, it is very important to see the understand the object motion, so that that plays a very vital role in the analysis, video analysis. That's why I would like to rather touch upon this part of it. Usually, this input to this analysis is a temporal image sequence or nothing but video sequence. Normally, normal course is a 15 frames per second or 30 frames seconds will be used. In special occasions, we can go up to 200 frames per second. Now we have cameras with 1,000 frame per second, and software supports more than that. So that kind of an image sequence we can input to the motion analysis system normally. Motion analysis is often connected with real-time analysis. Most of the time, when it comes to biomedical analysis, sometimes it is offline. But these days, different modes of image, video image, image modeling, and then video recording, all those things supports the real-time analysis also. Earlier, it was most of the time offline. Now, online analysis, real-time analysis is also possible. But with the other general application, most of the time, it goes with real-time analysis. And that way, we need to understand this motion analysis. Okay. In most of biomedical image analysis, it's offline, as I said earlier, but it is supported by machine learning process. Basically, machine learning is sit on the top of this optical flow, so that it is possible for us to have a better understanding of the motion analysis. So that's where I could see these things are related to one another. Okay, let us move on to the next slide. Here, what thing we have to assume. Otherwise, earlier it was more required than now, but now some of the things we can overcome anyway. But in general, these are the things which we try to assume before we go ahead. Assuming constant illumination, that's what we assume. And apart from that, image changes are due to the relative motion between the scene and the camera. That's what we believe when we think. And there are three possibilities in this relative motion. And camera still moving scene. So it is sometimes easy for most of the time. This is a kind of video we try to analyze. Camera, most of the time it will be still, and only in the scene is changing, and some movement is happening in the scene. That it's quite easy to analyze sometime, but the next complexity level is a moving camera still scene, but still there is some difference in thinking process and because normally you know that we go to the machine vision perception through the human vision perception. Therefore, camera still moving scene is a normal thing to happen. In coming to moving camera still scene, it is other way around, but still equally complicated compared to the or a little more complicated than the previous one. When both are moving, it's a moving camera and moving scene, then it adds to the complexity. It definitely moving camera and moving scene both are changing, and bringing computer vision perception to this moving camera, moving scene arrangement is very, very difficult. And some more thing which normally we go with monocular cameras, that is we use single camera for the recording the videos. In special cases, binocular cameras are used, where two cameras are used, and depth information is a part of binocular video recording. So these are some of the things which we would like to know. Normally we go with monocular cameras in most of the cases. In certain special cases, we require binocular, I mean two camera in position to do the recording part of it. So now the motion field. I would like to introduce this term. What is motion field? Normally, it's a camera 2D scene is, I mean 3D scene is projected to the 3D. That next slide I will take it up to the 2D screen, basically two-dimensional screen. And that projection of moving object in terms of velocities, it will be projected on the screen. The motion field can be thought as a projection of 3D velocities on image plane. So image plane is always a 2D image plane, and it in terms of velocity we would like to project it, and that is called motion field. Normally it is a velocity vector. It has got both direction and magnitude, and that's an important part of it, so that the segment, I mean the analysis of this information will be further easy. And the motion field assign a velocity vector to each pixel in the image. Normally these days we use digital images and digital video we will use, and that information with us is a digital information, and every in an image every pixel is a depending upon the resolution, you have the pixel numbers. Every pixel will be assigned with a motion field. Of course, you can have a grid like network. I'll show you in the later point of time, and for a grid we can attach this motion field. This is one which we need to understand. This is a very important information for the analysis, for the further analysis. So that way we'll understand this motion field. Now we'll move to the next part of our discussion here. These velocities are induced by the relative motion between the camera and the 3D scene. Normally, holding the camera constant and projecting on the 2D plane, and it's a motion of the objects normally recorded on the 2D screen, and it's basically relative motion is recorded, and that will be treated as motion field, and that will have a very vital information, and that information will be useful and discussed. And now there are four, normally these are the four motions. We can generally, of course, all the motion fields, we can put it, comes under this purview. So one is a translation perpendicular to the surface. When we are moving away, either away from the camera or towards the camera, just perpendicular to note. In that case, that kind of motion fields normally looks like this in general. And these are the four expected motions in any video. And that's what I am explaining now. And this results in this kind of a field. And second one is rotation about the axis. You could see that it is clockwise or anti-clockwise. It is anti-clockwise aromers have been shown. A disk is rotating in the anti-clockwise mode, and accordingly this has been recorded. You could see that it is semicircles. I mean, it is a circle with a common center. It appears to be like this, and it reveals the rotation about axis perpendicular to the imaging plane. Holding camera against the camera, if something is rotating, this is how the fields, motion fields generated. Now translation parallel to the either right to left or left to right. It can be, it depends on the arrow mark, and you can see that it is from left to right, translation parallel to the surface at a constant distance. If the distance is not changing, this is how the motion field looks like. Of course, if you have an obstacle in the middle, and of course the velocity or motion fields differ like this. You could see that when apart from the obstacle it remains same, but when at the point where the obstacle is there, obstacle, we don't know how far it is from the plane or background, or it all depends on that. The lines shows that if lines are much longer than the one which is here, then it shows that it is just in front of the camera. If it is smaller in size, then it is away from the camera, and this length of the motion fields decides that. Anyway, these are some examples which we try to understand these motion fields, because once we understand this part, next optical flow analysis will be very easy to understand, and we will come to know the usefulness of that. Okay, with that, let me move on to the next step. So when let us say object is moving in the scene, and some more assumption we have to make. We have to arrive at, otherwise analysis will be difficult. So, or you have to have a different arrangement, or the limitation of the arrangement will pose this limitation anyway. For example, maximum velocity. Say for example, we are working on 15 frames per second video recording, let us say digital video recording. In that, every frame is of the length of 1/15 second. So that means 1/15th second is the time interval between the two consecutive frames. So in that case, let us think of a situation. We have a 9-meter distance where our camera is covering, keeping the focal length of the camera constant. That's also another assumption sometime we made. And of course, all these we can overcome by the technology and machine learning, of course. That later point I'll discuss that. Anyway, maximum velocity I was discussing. It is 1/15th of a second. If 9-meter distance is a distance which is covered in the scene. Now, if object enters at one end and leaves the frame on the other end before 1/15th of a second, if speed or velocity of that object is more than 9 meters in 1/15th of a second, definitely we will not be able to see the any image at all or any moving object within the scene. If it is a little less than also, then we have a problem that one or two image we may get within 1 by 15 seconds. If velocity is little high, I mean comparably little higher. But I will fix the maximum velocity where at least in 1 by 15th of a second, or in 1 second at least I must get the 10 or 15 pictures of video frames of the moving object. Then the analysis would be very useful, and we can develop. I mean, we can come out with some useful metrics, and we can quantify either velocity, acceleration, or anything corresponding to the object. You want to get the trajectory of the object also, we need that at least 10 frames must be available in 1/15th of a second. I'm taking just an example of that, so that we can fix the maximum velocity, or at least where of the object which is moving in the scene, at least it has got, it is well within the limit of our video recording. So I can use a better camera where even I can get 15 or 20 frames of moving object with a very high velocity also. That can be done based on the, say for example, 200 frames seconds or 500 frames per second camera. If it is available, if I'm using it, definitely it is possible for me to go to the, and the maximum velocity I can decide based on the video camera which we are using. Okay, so that's why it's an important factor that way how many frames per second we are recording here. So that way that I have given both sides picture, that with the resolution of 15 frames per second, and on the other side to 200 or 500 frames per second. With a 200 frames per second, I can fix the maximum velocity to a lower limit. With 500 frames per second, definitely it is much higher, or 10 folds higher than the 10 or 20 folds higher than that of 15 frames per second. So that's how the maximum velocity of moving object, to localize the moving object, this is the constraints we have, and we need to understand that. And we expect that it moves with constant velocity. If there is an acceleration, and it must be a small acceleration, that's what we expect. Of course, this is also another challenging problem for if there is an moving object with an acceleration much more than the expected one, still we will be able to analyze such videos with the help of machine learning. That is possible with the usage of machine learning here. Anyway, earlier version, in most of the discussion, we normally it goes with small acceleration. That means one is maximum velocity, and the object in the scene must move with an acceleration which is small enough, which will not alter our within 1 second whatever we are what the number of images we are taking will not alter to a great extent. If I am getting 10 frames per second, if it reduce to, because of acceleration, if it is reduced to 9, it does not matter. With a greater acceleration, reducing that number of images I get in 1 second is 4 or 5 or 6 frames of the moving object, then it is very difficult for us to make an analysis. So that way, we always look at that the acceleration of the moving object is kept as small as possible. If it is 0, if it is a constant velocity, it is fine. We'll have a definite number of samples. And all these cases, we need to have some artificial intelligence to account all these things, and that we can overcome this assumption and limitations by adopting the machine vision technique. And common motion, we call it as a rigid motion sometime. every like rigid motion means it is if it is a vehicle, assume that it's a vehicle. So all the components, I mean everything there, unless if it is met with an accident, everything will move with a fixed distance from the one point to another point of the image. So front end to back end or whatever, that length of that, number of pixel length or whatever will remain same. That is called rigid body motion or common motion. But when it comes to a human being, if I am walking, I stretch my legs, I stretch my hands, I shook my head. So all these things will create a mutual correspondence. So that is to be accounted when we how many to what extent I have moved my hand in front of the camera is a mutual correspondence. That means as a body, as an individual, that human is a rigid one, but within that some parts is moving, and we need to have a mutual correspondence for these pixel motions, and that's very important, and that's why we need to understand all the intricacies of this and assumptions we made to go for the optical flow analysis. So these are the some of the issues we have addressed, so that we'll be able to go for now the next level of understanding. So now I'll say motion analysis method. I can use the differential analysis basically. Of course, in optical flow. Optical flow is another tool. So there are many. I have chosen only this because most of the optical flow analysis linked to these two. I just would like to brief on these analysis methods, and then we will discuss further. Okay. So three main objectives or main types of problem, motion analysis problem, is to detect the motion in the first instance. So register a detected motion using normally single static camera. This is a most of simple work which can be implemented. And moving object detection and location. So you have to segment the moving object within the frame, and that's the next level of work. This is a very simple work which can be done. So these days, cameras with optical flow arrangement and detecting the motion, everything will be embedded. So the output of the camera straight away will detect the motion and display it. So all metrics, all quantities we can measure along with this. So absolutely, that is a technology of the day. So moving object detection and location. Location of moving object is another level of work, and you can segment the object which is in motion, and next level is the detection of the trajectory of the motion. So you can predict some prediction we can do. Say, let us normally this is being very useful when it comes to the rocket launching and even other types of work, wherein if something is thrown to the air, then what kind of trajectory it can follow, it will follow, and where it will fall. All those things we can do this along with this analysis, motion analysis. Prediction of its future trajectory. If there is an acceleration or deceleration, then we can detect that also. We can along with the velocity we can also detect, and then we can also detect the trajectory, and if there is any change in trajectory, that also can be detected. And that's the biggest advantage here when we work with the when we work with these systems and along with the motion analysis. Of course, they're a bit complicated. We have a solution for all these problems. And of course, so there are some of the techniques which are available for this. I have mentioned here. Of course, I'll share these slides later, and you can also go through this. I don't want to read all these things, rather it's in front of you. These are some of the important one level complexity we can keep on including for all these problems. First detection, and then detection of motion, segmentation of that, trajectory detection, prediction of the trajectory, all those things we can do. So this is the, and another important, more than this, especially when it comes to biomedical application, derivation of 3D object properties. Of course, all these frames are 2D projections of a 3D image. Now reconstructing 3D image from 2D projection is an important task. And here it's also a part of a motion analysis problem. So once a project, I mean, a object is in motion, many, of course, single camera also, multi cameras also we can use, and we can get the information, and 2D images can be projected, and we can construct the 3D object, and we can also look into the properties of that. That's a big outcome of this motion analysis, especially biomedical application. This is very important. Now move on to the last part of this discussion on moving, motion analysis is this challenges in motion analysis. Occlusion. So when you have an object which is in motion, and when more than one object is moving in a scene, then definitely we have an occlusion problem. Or sometimes some rigid body is there, which partly occludes or covers the body, the object which is in motion. That is called occlusion. There are this is a very challenging one. Now our machine intelligence or computer vision or artificial intelligence will come to our help. Even these days we have seen that routines are written. Some rigid occlusion is there that can be removed, and you can create the background scene without any problem. So if that occlusion can be removed, you can see the moving object even in the when you have a rigid object in front of the moving object, which partly or fully covers the object in motion. So that's a very challenging one, and of course still a lot of openings are there, a lot of work we can do. How to improve the quality of analysis when we have this occlusion problem. So even that still is a research problem, and a lot of work is going on. Brightness variation. This is another problem always, that constant illumination. Whenever we in a lab mode or in a place where we are doing some experimentation, we can keep the brightness constant. But when it comes to the real-time recording, then you cannot keep the brightness constant. Always this illumination changes, whether it's a sunlight or whatever, shadow formation. Many other issues will come into picture. So with this, brightness will not remain constant, and that's another issue. Otherwise, we'll get the wrong interpretation of the motion. So that leads to several other problems. So that in that event, you need to focus on this particular problem again. So it's a challenging problem. A lot of openings are there. Even with machine learning, this can be improved to a greater extent. And moving multiple object motion, as I said, that occlusion may create because of the rigid body present in the scene, or another object which is in motion. When we are working out with multiple objects with different velocities, then definitely this is a challenging problem to analyze, especially when it comes to robotics. When multiple robots are playing or operating in a shop floor or in a workspace, then this is a big challenge, and this need to be handled properly. Of course, we have certain work carried out, but still a lot of openings are there where artificial intelligence and machine learning will play a role. So even with optical flow analysis and the additional information which we gather from machine learning will help us in doing all these things. Real-time analysis is always a problem. Of course, now this has overcome because of some improvement in the image technology, imaging technology. Instead of 200 frames, 15 frames, I go with 30 frames or 60 frames or 100 frames or 200 frames. Therefore, I can get more number of frames so that more computational time will be required. But in spite of that, in the real-time analysis, there is a chances we lose some information in between, because to work, to enhance the performance, we can improve the technology. Of course, the improvement in the technology, this can be addressed. Sometime that also adds to the computational complexity. For example, if I'm measuring the velocity of an object in motion, if I use 15 frames per second, of course, which I go with real-time analysis, my accuracy will limited to that 1/15th of a second and that frame. But if I go with the 200 frames per second, definitely my accuracy will increase. But if I use 200 frames per second, I have to analyze all the 200 frames before 1 second. So that increases the computational complexity, and always it's a trade-off. If you can have a better technology, but then also complexity of computation increases exponentially, and we may we may have a better accuracy, but we may not be complete the target. Complete the work in time. So 1/200th of a second is available with 200 frames per second, when compared to 1/15th of a second available for, it's a larger time compared to 1/200 second. So definitely with every frame we get this, and of course we can calculate more in a better way, but accuracy will be reduced. But with a greater computational complexity, I can increase the accuracy. I have just taken an example of a velocity measurement of a moving object. It is not only that, even segmentation, even other issues also can be addressed with the different metrics and measures. So this is another important part of the discussion. I think I have current trends to improve the this motion analysis, or the improvement in image sensor technology. Just now I said that we can go up to 1000 frames per second, and I can interpolate the intermediate frames. Therefore, I can create another frame, so that although I have 200 frames per second, I can have with artificial intelligence, I can create 1000 frames per second, and so on and so forth. So this is the one improvement which normally going on continuously. As the technology improves, this number can change constant. With the improvement in technology. Anyway, they're not just and the development of specialized hardwares, including this sensor, image sensor or camera, even the digital signal processing processors, other hardware which is associated with digital image processing, they keep on changing, and their speed, their efficiency, their number of word length they can handle, all these are changing, and along with that, there are, there is a definitely they contribute a definite amount of improvement or increase in the computational rationale for all these moving analysis or object the analysis of object in motion. Anyway, see, these are some of the things for different application, lip reading and facial expression analysis. Almost there are different technologies have emerged and algorithms have come. It's available and we can go with it. And implementation of new algorithm using machine learning techniques and artificial intelligence, pattern recognition. Constantly new algorithms are propping up. It's adding up to the increase in efficiency, quality of measurement, all those things have been increased by leaps and bounds compared to the last decade. Of course, in the next decade, probably we may see a one more leap bound change will happen, and definitely they contribute to the betterment of the overall technology to analyze the motion of objects. Okay. Now, with this, I have come to an end of motion analysis. Now, let us try to spend some time with the optical flow. Then, last part, I'll come to the different areas where people can work and try out some new things, and some few papers which are recent works and recent developments which are going on in this field, and how machine learning really can adds up to the optical flow and get a better information extraction from the scenes. So that let us see that part in the later. Now let us concentrate on optical flow. Once we understand the motion analysis, it is very easy for us to take on with this. So this is normally an incremental change we would looking for, and that is interframe motion changes, and we attribute the delta t to that. I said that earlier. If it is a 15 frames per second, delta t would be 1 by 15th second, and if it is a 200 frames per second, it is 1 by 200. So the immediate objective of optical flow is to determine velocity field. So a velocity field is a vector, as I said earlier. It has got more magnitude and direction, and more interestingly, it has got direction that is very, very important in localizing the moving object and segmenting it. So this is what I have explained along with the motion analysis also. You can see this point and you can understand. Okay, and 3D motion is projected to 2D, and then especially each pixel will have some information, and resolution depends on the number of pixels we use. Of course, even that has technology has changed a lot. Earlier, with few megapixel, now you can see that it has 30 times or 40 times more resolution, better resolution we can have. In the present day technology. Anyway, so this is a velocity field. The immediate objective of optical flow is to determine velocity field with respect to every pixel or chosen pixel. So that's the one which you would like to look for, and then it is based on two assumptions again. So of course we can these limitations we can overcome by opting us to work in the machine learning or artificial intelligence. That's what I keep saying, that there are a lot of avenues available in this analysis. The observed brightness of any object point is constant over a time. That's what illumination or brightness of the object, you put it in that way. So that remains constant. Nearby points in the image plane moves in a similar manner. So the velocity smoothness constraint that we say, the rigid body motion more or less we try to look at. So this is how the pinhole camera model is there. 3D image is projected to this, and XY will be created based on these arguments. And of course, every one of us know this, and I don't want to spend the time on this. Let us move on to the next. There are four methods available for the optical flow computation. One is matching method, differential method, and energy-based method, and phase method. And of course, every method has got its own importance, and it has got its own applications. So normally different when you go with the camera, digital image analysis, more or less we bank on differential methods. There's a more a general in general, this is a area we concentrate on. Anyway, all these methods are useful in their own way, and we have a computation rationale to compute the optical flow of the video or scene from all these methods. So anyway, let us I will focus on differential methods, and this is how. Let us say that this is the one which is in is a simple model I have shown, that you take this this object is moving, so it's a rotation. It is in rotation, it's not a translation, it's a rotation mode. So let us say this is moved by in a time t1, this is the position, and in time 2, this is the position of the object. This is how it is moved in a distance. You can see the velocity vectors created because of this motion from t1 to t2. This is what has exactly happened. Moment has a rotational moment has happened, and this is how it is reflected as a velocity vectors. This is a very important information. You could observe this. This point, normally this pixel, the motion will have a larger motion. Therefore, it has moved to this point. Pixel here has moved to this position. The greater movement has happened. Therefore, the velocity assigned to that pixel is larger. You could see here. Similarly, if I chose a pixel here, then that will trace a less distance than the one which is here. And definitely, accordingly, you have a velocity vector which is a little smaller than this. As you move towards the center, almost it becomes 0. And that pixel will not move at all. Here, this is a constant. This will be in a constant position almost, this movement. So it won't register any movement at all. So now this is a very vital information, and this can be analyzed. This is what optical flow gives you. Okay. Okay. Hope I am audible. It's clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's clear, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So this is a rationale. I have chosen differential method, and here the partial differentiation will come into picture. Let us say that at time t, we have the object is at point xy, with the t plus delta t. That means at t, in the delta t time, it has moved, and the new distance or new position is x plus delta x and y plus delta y. So if this is the thing, then we will end up with this equation, and the Taylor expansion f of new x1 y1 t, that is a new position at time t, is always given by f of x plus dx, y plus dy. It's a function of this, and definitely t plus dt. These are the function. Now this ends up in a partial derivative. This f stands for partial derivative. Now these are the this is the initial position, and my subsidiary is a partial derivative of x1 y1 with respect to delta x, and partial derivative of x1 y1 with respect to delta y, and partial derivative of this with respect to time is a first order partial derivative, and higher order will be neglected, and this is represented by this. Higher order will be neglected, and this will give you a mathematical rationale or model for us to work with the velocity vector. So this is a Taylor expansion, Taylor series expansion, and this is what you get. So this can be used now. This is a first fundamental step, and now this can be. I should end up with velocity at a particular for every pixel. So assuming the higher order terms as 0, only we left with this. Only you see that partial derivative of this with respect to time t and with x, with y, and with the time. So these are the only 3 derivatives, partial derivatives which are in. Now having this, Now I'll f of x, f of y, and f of t are the partial derivatives. Deva x by deva t, like deva x by deva t, it is dx by dt. F is deva y by deva t, is a partial derivative of this, and this is a differentiation part of it. Now, once I say that this is a partial derivative, now you see that I can compute a velocity vector assigned to each of the pixel which is in motion. So that is given by this derivative term dx and dy. So it is equal to uv. It's a velocity vector. It's a components of velocity vector. So c is the velocity. This is how it's a basically gradient. Now, when it comes to the if it is a continuous analog system, analog image, we have a problem. But when it comes to the digital image processing and digital images, all these will be reduced to a difference in the reference image and the next image in x direction, in y direction against time. That's all. So you get the velocity assigned to every pixel. If pixel is in motion, then a velocity will be assigned to it, and that will be given by this, and that is done by through simple differentiation, of course. Initially, after that, another computation level of computation we need to do. First, we take the gradients, and based on the gradient analysis, velocity can be assigned to each of the pixel. Once that is done, that is so lot of UV, and we have a algorithm which can reduce the number of iterations which we can do with every pixel can be done. So this is an algorithm which we can use to reduce the number of computation to do the optical flow computation after optical flow calculation, because it involves a huge for every pixel this is to be done. It's a big computation we need to do. It involves a lot of complex steps to be followed, but it's only subtraction and more or less most of the time for m plus 1th pixel, what is that velocity vector, and we have assigned to all those things can be computed. I and j normally is iterations. So at a certain iteration we can arrive at the velocity, and we can optimize this. We can reduce depending upon the available computation facility. We can arrive at some iteration. How many number of iteration we have to enter, what level of accuracy we have to end up with. Okay. Now, as I repeat, as I said earlier, optical flow in motion analysis, this is a parallel motion vectors and translation depth, in depth relative to observer, here common focus of expansion, all these things, concentric motion vectors, this I have shown earlier also, just before this. Now next slide will be that. This is how more or less the motion analysis, whatever we discuss, the same. If it is a translation, the vectors, if it is a rectangular object, if I move like this, translation motion, this is the vector which produces. And this is in depth. If it is moving away towards the camera and away from the camera, we get a certain kind of a optical, vectors like this, and it's a rotational one, concentric rotation. And now it is a planar object rotation perpendicular to the view axis. So this is a kind of velocity vectors it produces in optical flow. So now optical flow in motion analysis is mutual velocity of an observer and an object. You know that so x, y, z, and it's a reference point, and definitely you get the difference. And this FOE, focus of expansion determination, distance depth determination, collision prediction, all these are the possible solutions when we look at the motion analysis from the perspective of the optical flow. So these are the different methods available. I have summed up here some important one I have taken. There are many, but by and large, by the good number of researchers are working in this using these methods. That's why I, of course, with little modification, of course, basic methods I have discussed. Along with that, some phase correlation method. It is an inverse of a normalized class power spectrum. Block-based methods, minimizing sum of square differences or sum of absolute differences, or maximizing the normalized cross correlation. And differential methods, Lucas-Kennedy, is a versatile in nature, and many will and Horan and Shunak method. So these are the two methods which are widely adopted by most of the researchers, and they have explored many possibilities of computing the optical flow in different perception. So I think most of the things are encompassed by these two methods, but still, for your knowledge or for your information, this another method, Buxton and Buxton method, is widely used. These are all available these days. We need not start writing the code for these things. These are available as an open source. You can use it for your work, and definitely after acknowledging it. So this is the information block Jepson method via correlation. So general variational method, this is Horan and Shunak using data. This is a recent development here. So discrete optimization method, the search space is quantized, and then image matching is addressed through label assignment. All those things have been done. And another important optimal solution is often recovered through max flow min-cut theorem algorithms are used, linear programming. These are some of the tools which you use along with the optical flow, so that we can end up with a better result, which we are looking for. So this is a iterative solution. You can flow of these things you can observe. So we can arrive at finally the initial guess and estimated guess. Finally, we can arrive at some value, and we can definitely see the estimation here. So it is an iterative process, and that's what I would like to show you, that some estimation is being done, and we going through certain iteration, we end up with final velocity assigned to this, either in u direction, x direction, or in y direction. This is corresponding to x. That's why velocity I have taken as u in x direction. So similar work is done for y also, and we can interpret the velocity of every pixel at a different after arriving at iterations. So this is what iterative estimation means. So optical flow is an iterative estimation. Some important issues. Warping is not easy. So whenever we do this technique, and warping is one thing, and it is we need to spend some energy on this part of it, and warp one image, take a derivative of the other, so you don't need to recompute the gradient after each iteration. That's the advantage if you have a proper warping. One useful to low pass filter suggestion is that low pass filter the images before the motion estimation, so that sometime we have a better result. These are some of the issues we can address when we go with optical flow. So those who would like to use this optical flow for your research, so you can note down these points. This is how the needle diagram, we call this as a needle diagram. When the object is, say, here the camera is moved towards the fixed scene. So this is how the image, velocity vectors looks like. So focus on the center, on this part of the image. If I only alter the focal length, if I am moving towards the object, or holding focal length constant, if I am moving towards the object, moving the camera, this is how the needle diagram generated. This is very important. It is assigned with the grid, a definite grid here. Grid points have been chosen and allocated to that. And even we can, for every pixel, we can calculate. If we use grid, it reduces the time. I show one example using the grid. So this is an experimentation, one simple thing, how it is being implemented. I will show you. We are running, I mean, we are exactly targeting the time so that I go through this, because all of those, whatever we have discussed, I have taken an example of a complex scene where a person is moving behind the scene, where almost we cannot distinguish the scene and the moving, I mean, the person is in motion. And surveillance, especially during surveillance, this will be of a big help. See, here is a person, almost you cannot distinguish with a naked eye that someone is moving here. This can be detected using optical flow analysis, assigning vectors to it, and different stages of analysis is like you take the gradient, find out the vector. This is the first step. We compute the optical flow, and these are the steps involved. And of course, spatial Gaussian filter is applied, and UV and corresponding to X direction, corresponding to Y direction, optical flow has been estimated. This is how it looks like. So you can see that certain very difficult with a naked eye to you can write certain algorithms where certain vectors are available. In a larger skin, I can show that definitely the length of these vectors are different. So here you could see one group, another movement here, another movement of vectors. Of course, very difficult to make it with a naked eye, but with computational rationale, it is possible for us to identify all these things. My next step would be recognition, region segmentation, used based on, I can use that 4x4 matrix or 2x2 matrix or something like that. I can play around and I can accumulate information and I can segment it. If I segment, a different segmentation looks like this of a person. But naked eye, I mean, for our perception, we may not get it. For the machine perception, that's why it is consistent and it's better. Always we look at the, this is where we want to bank on the machines. And of course, it cannot be better than the human vision sometime, but sometime when it comes to the accuracy, repetition of the same event or something like that, I mean, consistency, then the machine vision is a better version of it. So now the third step is the predicted path voting. So we can use it. This is a basically an AI technique, or it is a some technique we use where we do the processing, and this is what we'll get the intermediate stage answers. Now you can see that the object of motion is being recognized. So that this is the first one we know that, and here this is object, and object is moved to this place, and object is moving almost away from the scene. So this is narrowed down to the object now. After eliminating what I mean, basically it's a pattern recognition analysis. So out of the previous one, if I go to the previous slide, you could not make out that what exactly what exactly the motion is. So you see here, is there any, it's not possible for us to identify the motion proper, because so many things are, so many other points are also available. But when we do this third stage process, almost we are narrowed down to this. Next, I will show you one demonstration. Please go through this. I'll take a break of a couple of minutes. I have given everything. It's in front of you. Please go through. Watch this for 1 minute. Another video will be played after this for another 1 minute or so. So please observe these videos. This is the power. This is the power of optical flow analysis. See, a person moving has been segmented, and finally you see the segmentation of that moving object, how clear it is. Given a scene like this, it is possible for us to either human or object in motion can be detected very, with more precise, almost online, the things are happening. Please, you observe that. After a minute, another video will be played, and then I'll resume once again the next part of discussion. Okay? Okay, Pushpalata, another
Yes,
minutes
sir.
you can
Yes.
spend. Another video will be played by my student. Please watch that video also.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay, we'll go with the next slide. This is where I complete the optical flow part, and we will move on to the next stage of our discussion quickly. So here you can observe that the one which we have done in the previous is 1/50, only 15 frames were used there. Here you can see that 300 frames have been used, 300 hertz real-time optical flow. So 300 frames have been used, and this is the optical flow information generated in the real time. So, and a lot of water has flown in this domain, and we can definitely catch up with the things. So I will move on to the next part of this is where we need the machine learning part, and see optical flow estimation, global estimation over regular grids. Grids will be formed, and each pixel on in the one grid has been chosen, and now that can be projected into multiple positions pixel there, and we can generate the optical flow motion. That's the analysis which we can take up, and a lot of machine intelligence, artificial intelligence is being used here when we do this kind of a support to the optical flow. So this is I am only focusing on the areas where machine learning and artificial intelligence can creep in and improve the quality of optical flow analysis, and further it helps to the community. Okay, so this is the one. And deep flow, large displacement optical flow with deep matching. So here deep flow blends matching algorithm with a variational approach for optical flow. A matching algorithm is used, and a deep learning has been embedded here. Deep flow efficiency handles a large displacement occurring in realistic videos. and shows competitive performance on optical flow benchmark. So this is another improved version of optical flow. So where it can better the regular conventional optical flow analysis, and where little bit of artificial intelligence and machine learning has been used. You can see that how the deep flow algorithm works. So say the reference image, you have 4x4 patches of that have been segmented, and convolutions have been done. And you see further the level response maps have been reduced here after taking a 4x4 map patches, and this has been convoluted, and this is reduced to this side, this size after aggregation. This is the response maps now from this to this. And again, one more level of this process is used, and that reduces the overall response map to a smaller size, so that it improves the quality of optical flow. So here you need these techniques are more or less covered when a conventional person who discuss these machine learning, regression analysis, and these analysis like aggregation will be a part of that. Okay, you can see that maximum pooling, submap sampling, sparse convolution, and this is a process of aggregation details. This is a part of the machine learning most of the time. That's why I have taken this up. This is what is going on at present. So FlowNet, learning optical flow with convolutional networks, and you know that these are the recent techniques which are available in the pattern matching, and that can be combined with optical flow, and you have a FlowNet sample and FlowNet correlation method, and you can use this, and you will get a better response. A simple choice is to stack both input image together and feed them through a rather generic network, allowing the network to decide itself how to process the image pair to extract the motion. So this is what is being done. Instead of a single processor in a network mode, we can use this. Parallel processing can be done with each frame, and then we can extract some information. And this is called a FlowNet simple technique, which does the optical flow computation. Another one is FlowNet correlation. Here, design a correlation layer that performs a multiplicative patch comparison between two feature maps consisting of the layer, and this is a FlowNet correlation. This definitely will give you the better outlook for the optical flow, and definitely this ends up in much more better than the conventional optical flow which we normally compute. And of course, these are all the techniques which comes under artificial intelligence and machine learning. So now you can see that this is how it is being done with the FlowNet arrangement. The next one, you can see here, this is a correlation wherein see the difference between this convolutional one, FlowNet of the two modes which I have discussed, FlowNet simple and FlowNet correlation. So these are the two different techniques which we adopt, and this is a simple diagram. So of course, those who are those who have research interest can go in deep into these recent findings. See here again, these are the techniques, refinements of resolution prediction. You can see finally, this is a prediction. Refinement of the coarse feature maps to a high resolution prediction, and definitely compared to the conventional optical flow, the available results are much better than the conventional optical flow. So different application in biomedical image analysis. Now I'll come to the last part of my discussion, wherein how this can be used in the medical image analysis, especially the optical flow technique. Where are of course, with the advent of computer vision techniques, definitely medical image analysis has taken a different shape altogether, and different modalities, image modalities are available, and there is a technological improvement in these analysis also, and several research have taken up in the last few years. Definitely, they have contributed to the betterment of this, especially digital version of information available in all these cases. That adds up to our the digital image processing and optical flow. All these things have seen a better, or improvement in giving the analysis or diagnostic information, extracting diagnostic information. Applications of optical flow estimation, you name anything, optical flow can be used. Wherever you have two images, you can use this. I'll show one example immediately after this. Registration and representation of a pictorial data. And when you want to compare the two images where if you have done some treatment in the past and is there any improvement either in the cancerous tissue or in the veins which you have done, that can be seen through two images taken at the same position, and some locations in that is identified, and if you see the changes available, that can be done. And visualization, texture extraction, segmentation, inter-study and inter-subject registration, image-guided surgery and intervention, texture analysis. Texture extraction is one kind of work, and texture analysis can also be done through the optical flow estimation. Shape and motion measurement, spectral analysis, digital anatomical atlases. We can prepare statistical shape analysis, computational anatomy, virtual and augmented reality for therapy planning and guidance, telemedicine with medical images, telesurgery, and image-guided medical robots. To that extent, optical flow it can be used, or already in most of the cases it is in place. Of course, you can either improve it further, or you can develop some new algorithms so that you can better the diagnostic information out of this. One registration part, I would say, this is an iris registration where some at different stages the treatment is going on. Whenever we will be able to recognize the improvement, this is very important. You see, optical velocity vectors have been identified where the changes have taken place, healing up of things or whatever have been identified here at different points on the image. So that, see, that further shown in the needle diagram. Thereby, it is possible for us to look into that. So, abnormality detection here, microcalcification detection of mammograms. One of my students have worked on that, and microcalcification identification is the earlier, fastest or very early stage detection of the breast cancer. So, this work has been carried out successfully, and this is a result. High accuracy optical flow for 3D image registration using census cost function is another improvement in the technology or algorithm. So this is the function used in order to analyze the 3D computed tomography image sequences, and this is used in this, and performance are definitely better. Optical flow algorithm for cardiac motion estimation, this is another domain where people are working and have end up with a wonderful result, where ECG gated MR image sequence of heart have been taken and have been analyzed, and definitely that has given a better analysis of cardiac motion estimation using optical flow. So this is an optical flow based method to predict infantile, of course, the baby's cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy is an important thing to be noted here. Even in the infants, this is a problem, and this can be uh, uh, identified using the optical flow analysis. Of course, the stages and the important points I have noted down, referring these papers, and further, of course, you can go in deep when you want to, if you want to pursue some research in these areas. Machine learning plus optical flow, a simple and sensitive method to detect cardioactive drugs. So cardiomyocyte is a muscle in the inside, in the heart. So effect of drug on that can be detected using the machine learning technique along with the optical. So these are some of the first level ventricle tracking using localized anatomical fine optical flow. Most of the applications which I have mentioned, I am taking this, referring these papers. So the left ventricle motion has been tracked here. You can see here, and this is the optical flow information gathered, and it has given a most accurate result when it comes to the left ventricle motion compared to the conventional. 3D reconstruction of highly complex microscopic samples using scanning electron microscopy and optical flow estimation. So optical flow estimation is again a tool here, and of course several machine learning and artificial intelligence algorithms also have been used to employ, to scan and register these. So these are the stages. Anyway, I don't want to go through that, and this is how this can be implemented and end up in interpreting spectrum, electron microscopy, images. So with this, I have come to an end. Of course, exactly, I have 5 minutes with us for question and answer. These are some of the references. Now it's a time for the question. Pushpalata?
Yes, sir. Sir, thank you, sir. Thank you for providing insight into the optical flow in emotion analysis. Sir, one question, one of the participants has asked, challenges in optical flow. What are the challenges in optical flow?
I have already mentioned in the slides what are the challenges and how to overcome it. And now the challenges are now that okay, I just okay. Now the challenge is that we are a lot of algorithms have been implemented or developed in the machine learning area. How that can be used along with the optical flow. So each time when we use the recent development in the other domain on optical flow have resulted in a much better analysis of and much accurate results have been produced. Now that is a challenge. So we can use and adopt those techniques which are a little generic in nature in the other domain, especially machine learning and artificial intelligence. How you can bring in those development into optical flow analysis is the one challenging. Yes. Hope I have answered.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, it is there in slides also, sir. I think Holy sir is busy, sir. Just wind up the session, sir. Yes. Thank you very much, sir, for giving a very informative talk.
Okay. With this, okay. Thank you. Thank you for the patience you have shown in listening for 1.5 hours. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you for your support also, sir. Thank you very much. And a lot of appreciation is coming, sir.
Okay. Okay. It's, I'm very happy. I'm very happy that I have got an opportunity. And of course, not much of interaction happened with the participants. But nevertheless, in this the limitation in this online domain, we have explored it to a better extent. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Bye.